Some movies leave you entertained, others leave you changed, but the best ones? They make you forget you were just watching a movie. Today, we're counting down 10 powerful Christian movies based on true stories, films about faith, miracles, and incredible real-life journeys. These are real events that show how faith can shape lives in ways no script ever could. We'll start at number 10 and work our way to our top pick, a story that defines faith and perseverance in a way few others do. So stay with us, because each film on this list has something unique to offer, and you won't want to miss what's at the top. Let's dive in.
Number 10. Breakthrough.
What would you do if your child was declared dead, but then, against all odds, he came back to life? This isn't a movie fantasy, it's a true story. And trust me, you're going to want tissues for this one. Meet John Smith, an ordinary teenager living in St. Louis, just trying to navigate school, basketball, and the ups and downs of life. One cold winter day, John and his friends fall through an icy lake. His friends make it out. John does not. He's trapped underwater for over 15 minutes. By the time rescuers pull him out, there's no pulse. Doctors try everything, still nothing. He's been dead for over an hour. Then his mother, Joyce Smith, walks into the hospital room. She cries out to God with everything she has. And what happens next stuns the entire medical world. John's heart starts beating. It's a story of faith, hope, and a miracle that defied science. But it's not all sunshine and easy answers. The movie digs into the hard stuff. Why does God save some and not others? How do we hold on to faith when everything falls apart? Joyce refuses to let doctors, skeptics, or even her own fears dictate the outcome. But this isn't just a mom praying for a miracle. It's a community coming together, people wrestling with their doubts, and a pastor who learns that sometimes faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting even when we don't understand. Breakthrough will make you cry, question, and ultimately believe in the power of faith. It's about a God who still works miracles, even when all hope seems lost. If you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favor. Grab a box of tissues and press play.
Number 9. The Case for Christ.
For some people, faith is a journey. For others, it's a battle. And for Lee Strobel, it was a full-blown investigation. When his wife became a Christian, he launched a full-scale mission to prove her wrong. But what happens when the truth leads you somewhere you never expected? Lee Strobel was a rising star in journalism. He dealt in facts, not faith. As an investigative journalist for the Chicago Tribune, he had built his career on exposing lies and uncovering the truth. So when his wife, Leslie, told him she had accepted Jesus, he saw it as a crisis. In his mind, religion was an emotional crutch, not something intelligent people believed in. His solution? Disprove Christianity by attacking its core belief, the resurrection of Jesus. Because if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, the entire Christian faith falls apart. Determined to expose Christianity as a myth, Lee sets off on a nationwide investigation. He interviews medical doctors, historians, and legal experts, collecting evidence to dismantle his wife's newfound faith. But what he finds isn't what he expects. Instead of proving Christianity false, the facts begin pointing him in the opposite direction. As Lee digs deeper, he's forced to confront something even more challenging than the evidence: himself. His skepticism is rooted in something personal: his relationship with his father, his fear of being vulnerable, his reluctance to admit he might be wrong. The more he fights faith, the more it fights back. The Case for Christ is an emotional journey of transformation. It's about the clash between reason and belief, between arrogance and humility. It is a story for skeptics, seekers, and anyone who's ever questioned what they believe. Lee set out to destroy faith, and instead, he found it. The Case for Christ is a challenge, one that might just make you see things differently.
Number 8. Father Stu.
Not all saints wear halos. Some have rough edges, bad tempers, and pasts filled with regret. Father Stu tells the true story of a man who went from a boxer, a troublemaker, and a lost soul to a priest who changed lives. And trust me, his journey is anything but ordinary. Stuart Long, or Stu as everyone calls him, is a fighter, literally. A boxer with a short temper and a knack for making bad decisions. He's chasing a dream that seems to be slipping through his fingers. After a string of injuries forces him to quit boxing, Stu moves to Hollywood, convinced he can become an actor. Instead, he ends up working behind a meat counter, barely scraping by. Then he meets Carmen, a devout Catholic schoolteacher. She's beautiful, kind, and completely uninterested in a man like Stu, but there's a catch. She won't even consider dating him unless he starts going to church. Stu, being Stu, sees this as just another challenge to conquer. So he starts attending Mass, not because he believes, but because he wants the girl. But God has bigger plans for him. One night, after drinking too much, Stu gets into a horrific motorcycle accident. He barely survives. And while he's lying in the hospital, he has an encounter that shakes him to his core. He realizes his life has been empty, his choice is selfish. For the first time, he asks the question, what if there's more? Stu decides to dedicate his life to God. Even more, he shocks everyone by announcing he's becoming a priest. But his journey isn't easy. His past haunts him, his body betrays him as he battles a rare degenerative disease, and the church itself questions whether he's fit to serve. But Stu is a fighter, and he doesn't give up. On life, on faith, or on the people around him. Father Stu is raw, real, and filled with unexpected humor. It's about transformation. And if you think God only calls the good people, this movie will make you think again.
Number 7. Jesus Revolution.
They were the outcasts, the rebels, the ones society wrote off. But in the middle of the 1970s counterculture, something unexpected happened. A spiritual awakening that nobody saw coming. The world was in chaos. The Vietnam War raged on, protests filled the streets, and a generation of young people turned to drugs, music, and rebellion in search of meaning. But in California, a small church became the epicenter of something radical. Hippies were finding Jesus. At the heart of this movement were three very different men. Chuck Smith, a traditional pastor struggling to connect with the younger generation. Greg Laurie, a lost teenager searching for purpose, and Lonnie Frisbee, a charismatic street preacher with a passion for reaching the forgotten. Together, they would ignite one of the greatest spiritual revivals in American history. At first, Chuck Smith doesn't know what to do with these barefoot, long-haired kids walking into his church. They don't fit the mold, and his congregation isn't exactly welcoming. But when he meets Lonnie, something shifts. He realizes that maybe, just maybe, God is doing something new. Against the advice of the church's elders, he opens the doors wide. Greg Laurie, a troubled teen running from his past, gets caught up in this movement. Through Lonnie and Chuck, he finds the hope he's been searching for. Hope that doesn't come from drugs, rebellion, or rock music, but from Jesus. As more and more young people flood into the church, a revival breaks out. Thousands are baptized, lives are transformed, and faith spreads like wildfire. Jesus Revolution teaches us that no one is too lost to be found. It's about stepping outside of comfort zones, welcoming the broken, and letting God move in unexpected ways. It will make you wonder, what if another revolution is just around the corner?
Number 6. Miracles from Heaven.
Some stories leave you speechless, not because they're dramatic, but because they defy logic itself. Miracles from Heaven is one of those stories. It's a film that reminds us that hope doesn't always come in the way we expect. Anna Beam is a bright, playful 10-year-old who loves her family and enjoys life. But when she starts experiencing severe stomach pain, everything changes. At first, doctors think it's something minor, maybe acid reflux or a food allergy. But as the symptoms worsen, her parents, Christy and Kevin, begin to fear the worst. After countless hospital visits and misdiagnoses, they finally get an answer. Anna has a rare and incurable digestive disorder. Her intestines no longer function properly, and there is no treatment. With every passing day, her condition worsens, and her parents are forced to watch their daughter slip away. Christy Beam refuses to give up. She fights for her daughter, searching for solutions, challenging doctors, and praying even when her faith is shaken. The weight of unanswered prayers, financial strain, and hopelessness starts to break her. Then the unthinkable happens. While climbing a tree with her sister, Anna falls 30 feet into a hollow trunk. Rescue workers brace for the worst, fearing she won't survive. But when they pull her out, not only is she alive, she's completely unharmed. And that's not even the most unbelievable part. After the accident, her disease is gone. No symptoms, no medical explanation, just healed. Doctors are baffled, scientists have no answers. But Anna has one. She says she met God, and he told her she would be okay. It's about faith, even when everything seems lost. Whether you believe in miracles or not, this story will make you wonder, what if they really do happen?
Number 5. I Can Only Imagine.
Some songs are just songs. Others carry a story so powerful, it changes lives. I Can Only Imagine is one of those songs. But before it became a global hit, it was a cry from the heart of a man searching for healing. Bart Millard grew up in a house filled with pain. His father, Arthur, was an angry, broken man who took his frustrations out on his son. Bart's mother eventually left, leaving him alone with the man who scared him the most. Music became Bart's escape. A football injury forced him into the school choir, where he discovered a talent he never knew he had. But no matter how far music took him, the wounds of his past followed. His father's voice, full of criticism and anger, was always there, telling him he'd never be good enough. Determined to chase his dream, Bart forms a band, Mercy Me. But the road to success is brutal. Rejections pile up, and no matter how hard he tries, he can't outrun his past. Finally, he is forced to face the one thing he never wanted to: his father. But something has changed. The man who once terrified him has found faith, and for the first time, Arthur wants to make things right. Bart resists, but over time, he sees the impossible: his father becoming a different man. And then, just as their relationship begins to heal, Arthur dies. Overwhelmed with emotions too deep for words, Bart does what he does best. He writes, "I Can Only Imagine" is more than a song. It's a tribute to the father he lost and to the grace that changed both their lives. I Can Only Imagine proves that no one is too broken to be made whole.
Number 4. A Hidden Life.
Standing up for what's right isn't always easy. Sometimes it costs everything. A Hidden Life is the true story of a man who refused to bow to evil, even when it meant losing everything he loved. Franz Jägerstätter was a simple farmer in Austria. He loved his wife, his children, and his quiet life in the countryside. As Hitler's grip tightened, every man was expected to swear loyalty to the Nazi regime. For most, it was just words. But for Franz, it was a choice between obeying the world or staying true to his faith. While others justified their actions, Franz couldn't. He saw the evil rising around him, and he knew he could not serve it. When he was called to fight, he refused to take the oath of allegiance to Hitler. His decision made him an enemy of the state. At first, people begged him to reconsider. His neighbors turned against him. His church leaders told him to comply. Even his own family was torn. Would it be better for him to survive for them or to stand for his beliefs? But Franz would not compromise. He believed that no matter the cost, his soul belonged to God, not to a dictator. Imprisoned and isolated, he clung to letters from his wife, Fanny. Their love was his last connection to the world he once knew. While others saw his resistance as pointless, Franz knew that even a single act of faith could shine in the darkness. Few people knew Franz's name during his lifetime, but history remembers him as a man who chose faith over fear. A Hidden Life is a hauntingly beautiful story about courage, conviction, and the price of standing for what is right.
Number 3. Sound of Freedom.
There are stories that entertain, and then there are stories that wake people up. Sound of Freedom isn't just a movie, it's a call to action. It shines a light on one of the darkest crimes in the world, child trafficking. And the most shocking part? It's all based on real events. Tim Ballard was an agent with the Department of Homeland Security, tracking down predators in the US. But something never sat right with him. He was arresting traffickers, but the children they had taken were still out there, lost in a nightmare. A father in Honduras was tricked into handing over his 2 young children to a fake modeling agency. His son was rescued, but his daughter, Rocio, was gone. Tim couldn't let it go. Even though the system told him there was nothing more he could do, he walked away from his job and set off on his own mission to bring her home. Tim's search takes him deep into Colombia, where he uncovers a horrifying network of traffickers. But to catch them, he has to go undercover, pretending to be one of them. Alongside a small team, including a former cartel enforcer, he organizes a massive sting operation on an island where traffickers sell children like property. When the dust settles, dozens of children are rescued, but Rocio is still missing. The only clue leads Tim into the most dangerous territory yet, a jungle run by armed rebels, where no law exists. He knows this could cost him his life, but he refuses to turn back. It's a gut-wrenching look at a reality many prefer to ignore. It reminds us that evil thrives when good people do nothing. And it asks a question we can't afford to ignore. What are we willing to do to protect the innocent?
Number 2. The Blind Side.
Michael Oher had nothing. He grew up in poverty, moving from home to home, never knowing what it felt like to be truly wanted. At school, he was quiet, struggling to keep up academically. But one thing was impossible to ignore: his size. He was built like an athlete, and that's exactly what got him noticed. But football wasn't the thing that changed his life. It was Leanne Tuohy. One cold night, she saw Michael walking alone in the rain with nowhere to go. Most people would have driven past. She didn't. At first, it was just a place to stay. But as Michael became part of the Tuohy family, they saw something deeper in him. A quiet strength, a heart that had never been given a chance to shine. Leanne wasn't just providing food and shelter, she was fighting for him, pushing him to believe in himself when no one else ever had. Football became Michael's ticket to a future he never imagined. With the Tuohy family by his side, he found not only success on the field, but also confidence in who he was. But the journey wasn't easy. Doubts, prejudice, and questions about the Tuohy's motives threatened everything they had built together. It's about what happens when we choose to see people for who they can be, not just who they are. It's about love, sacrifice, and the unexpected ways family can find us. And now, get ready, we've reached our top pick. The best Christian movie based on a true story is
Number 1. Hacksaw Ridge.
Desmond Doss was never like other soldiers. He didn't sign up to kill. He signed up to save lives. A devout Seventh-day Adventist, he believed in serving his country but refused to carry a weapon. In the middle of World War II, that made him an outcast. His fellow soldiers mocked him, his commanders tried to break him, and the military nearly threw him out. But Desmond didn't back down. He wanted to be a medic, not a fighter. And when his unit was sent to one of the bloodiest battles of the war, his faith and determination would be put to the ultimate test. The battle was pure chaos. Gunfire, explosions, men falling all around him. But while others fought with rifles, Desmond fought with his heart. As his unit retreated under enemy fire, he stayed behind. Wounded soldiers lay scattered across the battlefield, abandoned and dying. One by one, he carried them to safety, dragging, lifting, and lowering them down the ridge, even as bullets whizzed past him. His hands were torn, his body exhausted, but he kept going. Each time he saved a soldier, he whispered a simple prayer: "Lord, let me get one more." By the time he was done, he had rescued 75 men. The same soldiers who had once called him a coward now saw him as the bravest among them. It's a testament to faith, conviction, and the power of standing by your beliefs. Desmond Doss proved that true courage isn't about taking lives, it's about saving them. His story is one that will leave you in awe and remind you that even in the darkest places, faith can shine the brightest. And that's our list of the 10 most powerful Christian movies based on true stories. These films show that faith isn't just for Sunday mornings, it's for the moments that test us, shape us, and sometimes completely transform us. Now, we want to hear from you. Which Christian movie has inspired you the most? Drop your picks in the comments below. We'd love to see what movies have touched your heart. And if you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.